Hey everybody, welcome to our webinar today. It's really good to have everybody on board. Hopefully everybody can see us. If you want to have the slides a little bit bigger than we are, feel free to go ahead and do that. But we're going to try to do a little bit of a different format today, and we're going to kind of do it like a news broadcast. But the idea here is that we're talking to you. We want you to see us, unfortunately. We want us to see our cool background, whatever we've got behind us today, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun. So as you saw throughout the welcome videos that were kind of letting us get ready for this webinar today, we want this to be an interactive and an open session. I've got my notes in front of me here to keep me on track, but we want to be able to address your questions and answers and things like that. So we've got, we're going to try to keep our question and answers in front of us here. We've got systems set up for that, but definitely we want to focus on you and make this interactive. So with that, today's speakers, we have my good new friend here, Chris Arsenal. Right. And he is a sales engineer with us, but most importantly, the reason I wanted him on today's webinar is because he is a former customer. At a couple different companies, but basically he is here today to help kind of bring some of these theories and things that we're going to talk about and bring them to ground. Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to hear from Chris throughout the day as well. And of course, some of you may know me or may not. My name is Brian Robison. I'm our chief evangelist here at Cylance. And you know, again, today it's going to try to be interactive. So if you have questions for either I or Chris, as we go along, please feel free to ask those. All right, so today we're going to talk about humans and how easily distracted we are, because basically we have been ingrained in our DNA from our hunting days, essentially, to be distracted by bright, shiny objects. Oh, they're over there. Oh, they're over there, right? And so, you know, what we're going to talk about today is essentially doing more with less, and how distractions are essentially a concept that is keeping you from focusing on your business and growing your business. So, you know, most of you attending, probably there are going to be some of our competitors online or our security vendors, but most of you, your core job, your core business is not in security. It is digging for oil or gas, right? Making gas. It's manufacturing, it's healthcare, it's whatever. That is your core business. And your job in security is to keep your business safe so that it can grow, not to be the coolest deployment of security tools in the industry. And it's especially important when you have few resources, or you wear many hats, like I'm sure you did at several of your jobs in the past.
Absolutely.
As an IT guy, you wear a lot of hats. You might be in operations, you might be in development or whatever, but you're busy doing other things. And so, you know, we're basically trying to talk about, imagine what you could do with fewer distractions. Now, some distractions that we all deal with, we know that we lose productivity when our users are focused and or they're distracted by doing things in social media. I mean, I know myself when I have, you know, Slack running over here and I've got my email running over here and I'm trying to think over here, these things are just popping off and going off all the time, right? So, you know, we travel for business, we see people in airports, everybody's just face down, right? They're on their devices. Yep. And we even see, you know, some cities now even have like pads on light posts. Keep you from running into the darn thing.
If you go into an airport now, every single seat has an iPad on it to keep you entertained while you're waiting for your flight.
Pretty much, right. And so we all know that those type of distractions impact our users' productivity. When they're looking at Instagram or Facebook or doing Snapchats or whatever, they aren't being productive for your business. So we put policies in place. We may even put network rules in place to block access to some of those tools during working hours. But in most cases, we still can't stop users from using their phones or their watches or their personal devices from doing that. So we know we have a concept around distractions with social media.
Right.
Now, this is an interesting one, Chris, because this is actually my rack at home, my home office, and so.
Seen many of those.
Yep. So I find that technology actually distracts me a lot. I spend a lot of time monitoring, maintaining, updating, patching, nightly backups, cleaning the DLT cartridges.
Right.
I mean, I spend a lot of time managing this, stack of equipment. So we know that technology can distract us from our business as well, right? This is my home office. I am, my job with this runs my house and my home office. This is not what I do for a job, but this is just kind of what is required to run that business.
And we spend time in the sales engineering world building demos, building killer things that we can bring to a customer and show how powerful our technology is. But that takes a lot of time.
Yes,
that's Saturdays and Sundays and night times, and let's get that next lab up. Let's make this malware work. But yeah, there's a lot of time investment in that.
Agreed. So we have, as technology people, we love to tinker and play.
Of course.
The problem is it distracts from what we're supposed to be maybe doing, right? Working with that customer or deploying that product or building widgets or whatever it is that our business is supposed to be doing and growing. We have distractions. Now, one concept I'd like to talk about today, and that's why we're here talking about doing more with less, is about how security actually distracts us from doing things. Now, security is a broad topic, Chris, but we're going to talk today more about some specific levels of things in security that are costing you business, or costing your business growth. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, and you're going to talk about how Cylance technology and solutions and services have actually come in and allowed businesses to focus again and grow their businesses because they're not dealing with these security distractions.
Giving your people their life back.
Absolutely. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. So I want to start by talking about security alerts costing you focus, right? When your focus is supposed to be building more things or finding more oil or engineering, designing things, those kind of things like that, we have a situation now, some people have called it for the past few years something like alert fatigue.
That's correct.
Right? And we've put several different products in place. And I call them products because they're not solutions to the problems. We put lots of products in place that help us gather and organize, correlate and sort and try to visualize that alert, the problem. The problem is it doesn't actually solve the problem of the alerts coming in the first place, right? So we have to throw humans essentially at it, trying to figure out what's an important alert to look at versus what needs immediate attention, all these kind of things. And obviously, these things, as everybody knows, they only come in during business hours, right, Chris? they never come in on weekends. They never come in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Those kind of things.
Sunday night while you're out at dinner. No.
Right. So what we're trying to ask here is imagine what you and your business could do if you had to deal with a fraction of the alerts, that your scarce resources have to deal with. What could you do? Imagine if could you actually enjoy your weekends again? Could you go to sleep again? Could you be your kid's coach? Essentially, could you get your life back? And so, Chris, I know you've told me some experiences that you have had where when deploying Cylance as a Cylance customer,
right,
you were able to kind of get your life back. Can you go ahead and tell our folks about some of those experiences that you've had?
Yeah, for sure. So we deployed Cylance 3 years back as a customer, and we started our initial deployment, and you get it out on systems, and it's out there, and then you're like, well, how do I get this up to where it needs to be, where it can to the highest level of protection? And so we invested in, best investment I ever made, in our service Threat Zero, And Threat Zero was able to bring us from basic auto quarantine, one of the functions of our product technology, up to the highest level of protection, which includes memory protection and script control, and also eliminate almost all of the false positives. We rarely saw false positives in our environment. And then in the end, you've climbed that mountain, you've gotten to the top, there is nothing left to do. The total time investment to keep our product running and stable and blocking and preventing all the stuff that's out there is 5 to 10 minutes a day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were telling me about a specific incident where you were out with your family and you got a bunch of alerts.
Yes.
So now we all get alerts from our systems when we're out with our family. Can you tell me what was specific kind of about that alert that allowed you to basically stay out there with your family?
Yeah, so I was at a family event and I looked at my phone, it buzzed, and I pulled it up and I said, wow, this is the most devastating malware event that you could see. It was 54 events directly related to WannaCry. And WannaCry, as most of you know, is pretty dangerous stuff, global impact. So the best part about that for Cylance was those 54 events, 100% of them were prevented. So I didn't have to get up, like many of you know, in the IT world, and there's a fire out there, and 2 o'clock in the morning, you're driving on site, or you're trying to reboot a server. In this particular case, I put my phone down. It was a total non-incident. Cylance did the job it was supposed to do, and it blocked those 54 threats pre-execution.
That's awesome. So in that situation, the alerts they were alerts, they were notifications versus alerts, and they didn't require any attention because you saw, yeah, these were actually handled by the technology that you purchased to supposedly do that for you. So that's a really good example. So not every alert that you get has to be acted on every minute of the day. But the thing is that we have a situation, and we've actually kind of self-created this. We've never solved the problem of how do you stop the alerts from coming in the first place versus focused on dealing with the alerts when they come in as a big distraction, essentially, to growing your business or focusing your business. Okay, so the next little bit of point that I want to talk about is something I call security friction costs you productivity. Now, we've heard of this topic coming from several different angles within the IT industry. Sometimes it's a user standing at your door with pitchforks and torches and handing you their laptop going, I can't use this thing anymore, right? It's broken, it's too slow, or whatever. So in that situation, you've got a security friction, if you will, costing your end users productivity. They simply can't do their job because the machine is busy doing something else around security, updating or scanning or doing some of these other things. And so it causes user friction. Now, the other element are a little bit more important to us kind of in the IT side of dealing with the operationalization aspects. But what I have is what I call like security tool friction or security product friction, where we have so many products deployed that require so much maintenance and monitoring and design and upgrades and all these kind of things. We've actually gotten to a point where we're actually hurting ourselves. We're defocusing from what's important to our business, and we have more people deployed just managing these systems and monitoring for alerts, like we talked about in the first section, then we actually are getting value from that product.
That's right.
And in some cases, a product, you deploy one product, you might now have to put a team of 10 people out there to keep it up to maintain and deploy. Now, the third element that I think we have around security friction is in our new era of business transformation. We're transforming our businesses from expensive on-premises type of equipment. We're moving those workloads out into the cloud where they can be purchased, or essentially they cost our business a little less, and we're paying only for the time that is being used to drive our business. Well, in the case where your security tools on that technology are costing you literal dollars because every CPU cycle or every bit of storage costs actual dollars, if that CPU or that storage is being used to maintain its own security system, then that's distracting that technology from actually performing for your business.
Right.
So, Chris, when you have actually deployed Cylance in different customers, as a customer, did your users ever come to you or your IT team and say, I can't use this thing, it's useless?
No, it wasn't like the older technology, traditional AV out there. So it wasn't this constant on-demand scan or real-time scan. It was, there's one, our product runs one scan. When you install it, it does background threat detection. It looks and it figures out what's on the box, what's good, what's bad. That's the last scan you will see. You do have the option of turning that on if you really like the scans and you thought that was great for your environment. Most people do not.
I call that one the PCI checkbox,
yeah.
Right? Because by the requirements of a 10-year-old regulation like PCI, you have to frequently rescan your files. That was a regulation written, for a 20-year-old technology that does have to reassess all the time. So I call that one the PCI checkbox.
Yes.
But so you talk about after Cylance. What about before Cylance? Did those users have problems? I think you mentioned to me, you and I had a discussion earlier. I worked with an engineering firm who was actually working for oil and gas.
That's correct.
Where they basically had to pull their products off of their systems because it was slowing them down too much. They weren't able to do their drawings, their CAD systems, or modeling, or anything like that. And they put Cylance on, and then they could get the security back, but they left those resources available for that project.
Right.
So you had some similar type of experiences.
Yes. So we worked with a geoscience company that we were looking at their product and trying to understand how we could fit it into our environment. And it was pretty powerful stuff. It was all based VDI, all based, all in cloud. But they came to us and they said they can't run antivirus software because it absolutely kills the performance on their systems. So I suggested to them at the time, well, let's try out my solution. Let's put Cylance Protect on there and see how it performs and see if you can still do it. And so they did, and we have such a low CPU and memory utilization footprint that they were like, wow, this is incredible. And so they basically contacted Cylance and said, we'd like to use you as our preferred vendor for antivirus on their geoscience platform.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, Chris and I have both had, me as a vendor and you as an actual customer, have had, several success stories, and we have lots of them where, people have these experiences where, they can reduce that security friction. So, imagine what you could do with, let's say, 20% more VMs on a physical server. Or imagine what you could do. Let's say you're spending 10 to 20% of your cloud spend is spent doing daily updates, doing weekly scans of the entire file system. You're paying for the CPU, the memory, and the file I/O for the whole time it's doing that. But imagine what you could do with those resources if they were better applied to serving your business,
right,
instead of just maintaining itself. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. When you have security friction, can be a business inhibitor. Okay, so let's talk about the last element here. I forgot about this slide. So what Chris was talking about, when we talk about what Cylance offers, especially smaller organizations or organizations, even big organizations that have one guy wearing so many hats, or one team that's trying to do a lot of different things, when you have an AI-based solution like Cylance, you've got different technologies that allow you to take advantage of things. You mentioned minimal updates and things like that, but even more so moving to like advanced threat protection or prevention, right? We're actually preventing attacks, which cut down on the alerts and things like that. But this is the part I like about this slide, because many Cylance people have seen this type of slide before. It tells a story of kind of what we don't do, right? What the technology does not do.
Right.
But I want to look at it from a different aspect, and I say these are business distractions that companies spend money on today, or teams or resources are spending their time doing, that can simply go away. And so those distractions actually get to leave. And so by having a solution like Cylance that is truly based in AI, these distractions go away from security ops or IT ops.
Yeah, so back in the day, information security and organizations were very reactive, right? So, oh, malware just came in, our antivirus software detected it, but it didn't stop it. Now it's running on 10, 100, 1,000 systems. Now we've got to go remediate. Remediation, these are all reactive actions.
Right.
With our technology, totally the opposite. So we can prevent 99.9% of attacks before they ever execute. With that, we are an entirely proactive prevention first technology.
Yep. And we do it using AI, which acts as a force multiplier, and then basically allows businesses to get rid of some of these distractions that they spend time dealing with today. So on that point, responding to security incidents, right? Every minute that you and your team have to spend re-imaging systems, hunting for problems in the network, tracking things down, taking systems offline to quarantine them, to deal with incidents, to do your system imaging for evidence gathering or whatever. All of those things cost you, and in this case, I say they cost you business growth. If you're busy doing those things, you're not busy doing projects that help your business grow forward in doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, every product out there in the world is going to tell you that that they do that they solve the cybersecurity problem 100%. You use 99.9, which is a number that we have talked about for a long time. But in the case, the case is it doesn't really matter. No product is ever going to be perfect. But the interesting thing is there's testing industry out there that will tell you that these products score 100% detection rate on, I don't know what they use, but they showed 100%, and yet breaches and hacks still happen every single day throughout the world. And so why are you focused in stopping a breach once it's happened versus actually preventing it from happening in the first place?
Right.
WannaCry, you brought up earlier, is a great example of that, right? WannaCry impacted a lot of customers around the world. The funny thing is, the great funny part of it is, I guess, for some people, is that it's still impacting people today.
And it's still listed as one of the biggest malware out there.
Yeah, it's still impacting people, even though that it's been supposedly shut down. It still ends up taking out people. I mean, ransomware has proven the fact that you don't have days, weeks, months to find these things in your organization. You have milliseconds to seconds before the damage has been done. Ransomware has proven that fact. Right? It's if you can stop it from ever occurring in the first place, that's where it has the most value to your organization. Not going, oh, we saw it happen, we let it happen, and we'll now have to go clean up after the fact.
Now, that particular security incident that I talked about involving WannaCry was blocked with a 2-year-old agent. So our technology is able to block things before they ever happen.
Right.
And this was literally built 1440. I think it was January 2017. And yeah, it stopped it dead in its tracks.
Yep, exactly. So, there's lots of different elements to technology that's going to help prevent these things. But I'm asking here in this room for folks who are with us today, imagine what you could do with the resources that you may currently spend on resolving security incidents, re-imaging desktops, fighting fires. Imagine redeploying those resources into something that can actually help grow your business, rack more servers, build more custom apps, whatever you need to do to help drive your business forward. That's the issue here. And for those who are unfortunate to have had to deal with a security incident, some of you may not even have to imagine what the cost would be if you didn't have that incident. Some of you have actually probably done that work. So, incidents, Chris, let's talk about that for a second. Can you talk, in your experience as a customer, or even before being a customer, what type of resources does a company kind of have to deploy and kind of be ready, right? It's like you're the firefighters, right? You're the detect and respond.
Yes.
Because you didn't prevent the fire, you now have to detect it as fast as possible and respond to it somehow, or deal with a ransomware incident, for example,
Right.
that had to go now clean up. Can you talk a little bit about the type of resources that had to kind of be online, ready to go for that?
Yeah, so we'll look at two sides of that. The first is, in the operations world, right? So you're constantly, the old technology, you're constantly updating, you're constantly installing. Oh, we need to upgrade it. We got to do it across 1,500 servers and 30,000 systems. I mean, that's a lot of effort when it was older AV. That was a big upgrade. With our technology, we do zone-based updating. It's all in the cloud. It's very seamless, and it just works. And I have never seen a single impact from a build update. And so we've done that over and over and over again. So from the reactive or the old way, the reactive way of responding to security incidents, when you're dealing with a malware outbreak, I mean, this is like significant impact, global impact in some cases. And you may have 30 or 50 resources across your globe, scanning systems, re-imaging boxes. Cylance Protect and Optics takes that away because you are preventing the majority of attacks. And for those things that might get by, I mean, we're not 100%. You have optics in place. You have an EDR. Our EDR product has grown so much. It's so powerful now. And we can bring those two solutions to a customer and really change their world, get their life back, give them their time back and their resources back, where they don't have to manage all this stuff every day in millions of alerts.
Awesome. Yeah. Absolutely. So, like you said, you're not just the people who are focused in mopping up after the incident, but actually, who are there to try to make sure the incident doesn't occur the best way possible by trying to operationalize rolling out upgrades and things like that. I mean, I can remember when I was at a previous company and we were working with a customer, very, very large global customer, and they had a dashboard up on their wall on a big screen, kind of like what we have in front of us here, but it had a big dashboard up on their wall. And their goal, their green goal, their goal of the business, which is interesting because their business is not to do this. Their business is to fly passengers from point A to point B. That's their business. But they had an entire team dedicated. So the business of that team was essentially to make sure that they got 85% of those updates out after 5 days. Wow. That's how they measured success. So as different countries would come online, they would see different bumps in their graph of how many people were getting the updates. But you've got, everybody's on, thousands of people are on vacation, machines don't get turned on every day.
Right.
So, I mean, it's pretty sad, but if you take a look at like WannaCry as an example, people had to get upgrades and updates from the vendors and then get those deployed before they could actually prevent that one sample of WannaCry or another sample of WannaCry. And that was a huge cost for people.
And that patch is on every CISO's mind. So MS-17010, I mean, I talked to one of my good friends who's a CISO, and he came to me and says, we scan for that every day.
Yeah.
We just try to, if there's a system out there that doesn't have that patch, it needs to be patched immediately. Yank it off the network and get it done.
Yep, yep. So you've mentioned several things about actually taking a technology like Cylance and deploying it in production in the most optimal way possible. Let's talk about that for a second. But what I want to do first is I want to illustrate a couple of points to you folks attending with us today as part of this discussion. So these are actually pictures from my place, and basically my family runs a home hobby farm kind of thing. We have sheep and chickens and turkeys and cows and pigs and lots of things like that. But basically, her job, my wife's job, is to run this business. And her job of growing the business, as you can see here, in the past 2 weeks, we have had 5 brand new baby little sheep. And I love the mama with her little smile here. She's, oh, thank gosh, this is all done, right? But we've got these awesome new little baby sheep. We have 5 brand new babies, and hopefully there'll be 1 or 2 more by the time I get home. Now, these guys need water, obviously, right? We have pretty decent pasture. We've got pretty nice grass. We've got some cool shade trees for them to enjoy, but they're, a little thirsty when it gets warm out. And so we have to get them water. Now, as a, home hobby business kind of thing, the whole family participates in this. And we had a problem last year where we lost, we broke a frost-free, somehow broke underground about 7 feet down. And so this is actually a picture from Saturday morning. This is what I was doing Saturday morning this last weekend. I rented an excavator and I started to try to dig out our pipe. And this is actually after we fixed one of the corners here. But when I turned the system on, we still had no water out in our pastures. And now I'm angry. I'm angry. I have spent all of Friday, or most of Friday afternoon and all of Friday night until I couldn't see anymore. And all of Saturday morning, I have to return the excavator, by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Otherwise, I get charged another $400 a day. It's not cheap. And my problem here is that, again, there's another break somewhere up underneath this dirt. In fact, this was a picture taken Saturday morning. The hole is actually almost now twice as big, headed towards the excavator there, you can see in the upper left. But, I'm faced with a situation now where obviously I'm in the office this week. I can't go home and tinker with this. My sheep are thirsty, right? How do I grow my business? How do I keep those sheep happy? Now I've got a tractor sitting over here off frame with a water tank on the front that I use to haul water to the sheep, because this has been broken for a while. So they need their trough refilled about every 2 days. And so I am faced with a business dilemma, right? Do I focus on growing my business, which is getting water out to my sheep? I have a way to do that. I can put resources on that. Or do I dedicate my resources to fixing this problem? Maybe 2 or 3 days down the road, I'll get this problem solved and be able to turn the water on. But in the meantime, my business needs that water. So this is an interesting thing. I kind of like this because, some of you can relate, at home or whether you're at work. You've got competing priorities. You've got a limited set of resources, and you need to figure out when is it time to call somebody and have them just come in and do it.
Right.
And when is it okay to go ahead and fight that battle, climb that mountain, as you put it, yourself. And I wanted to just have you touch on that Threat Zero just another second, because Threat Zero is not just a deploy product. It's not an installation and configuration product. It's a service, and it's way more than just those basic components. Chris, can you just talk about all the different experience as a customer that you received from the Threat Zero service?
Absolutely.
The process.
We, going back in time, and you're deploying technologies as a security organization, and you'd have a vendor come out and they'd help you. You get the product up and get it installed, and then they're done and they're like, okay, goodbye, have a good one, call support if you need any help.
See you at renewal time, right?
Yeah,
I'll come see you again then.
We do things very different, and what we do works. So what we have as a service is very unique to Cylance, called Threat Zero, and Threat Zero will work with you from initial deployment until you're at the absolute highest level of protection.
Now, how does it do that? Because I think it's important for our audience to understand some of those early steps, right? The compromised assessment, what is that?
Yeah, so a compromised assessment looks at your environment. They run specialized scripts and different technology using our IR group, our professional services teams, to be able to determine if you have been breached or compromised, or if you have credentials out there, or somebody's made their way into your organization. And so they make sure, yes, you're good at this point, and now we can go work on your prevention first strategy.
Right, and now you mentioned something earlier as well that is kind of the bane of the existence of newer technology for security, false positives.
Right.
So in my experience, when I have dealt with some customers, when you install Cylance, and if you just turn it all on all by yourself, you're going to block some business applications that were custom written, things like that. And when we look at those, we go, yeah, it's a vulnerable application. It was written with a library that has malicious capabilities in it, right? It looks like a virus, and that's kind of why Cylance will pick up on that some from time to time. Now, with Threat Zero, that identification of those issues comes without the potential downtime of that application.
Or blocking legitimate.
Right. So basically, the team goes in, they look at your environment, they test it with non-impactful, the same technology, just in a non-impactful way.
Right.
And that allows them to identify, oh, we found these 10 files. We need to now look at those to make sure that they're legitimate business applications, they're written correctly. They may have, back doors in them. It's been kind of crazy what has been identified as part of this process. But that Threat Zero gives you that process. Instead of you throwing it out there and all of a sudden taking down a line of business app or something, you work with us and we will tell you, we'll look at that and say, does this app have a problem? Does it even maybe need to go back to the vendor and look at being rewritten better or something like that? That's kind of what I have seen as some of the successes out of that Threat Zero deployment.
Yeah, if you look at two of our features, which are very important features, and in order to get your product working at 100% or 99.9%, you have to have memory protection and script control turned on. So Threat Zero will walk you through the first component, auto quarantine, tell Cylance everything that's good, everything that's bad, make sure you clean up your environment so that the things that you need to work will work, and you're not going to be blocking those things. And the things that you need to shut down, and the malware that's out there, and the spyware, and the potentially unwanted programs, you can shut all that stuff down at our first phase. But then Threat Zero will come in and they'll give you every week, it's an hour investment. And it was the best investment I've ever made in my entire security career, because it's an hour. You spend an hour and they will progress your deployment up to where it needs to be.
Awesome. So we do have a few minutes left, and what I would like to do now, I'm going to try to see if I can
See the questions.
see the question. I can't quite see. Oh, there goes the darn deck again. I apologize for that. My controls here go a little crazy. I can see part of the questions here, but basically there's some questions about, does Cylance do on-demand scans, or can I make it scan stuff? Absolutely, you can. In a kind of an advanced mode, you can click on the menu and say run a scan, but there's really no reason to do that. And the reason is because Cylance does not use signatures like some of the traditional vendors that are out there. So you're not getting a brand new constant feed of new evidence to check for every day. You're dealing with an artificial intelligence brain that sits on the endpoint. It has another cool brain in the cloud that they collaborate together to look at your files and determine if they're bad or good, right? And then you've got, if you add files to the system, they get looked at as they get added. Or if you attempt to execute something, it gets examined before it's allowed to execute.
Right.
But there's really no concept, and this is the interesting thing. It's a totally different paradigm that we're normally used to dealing with. You don't have all that infrastructure of daily updates. You don't have the servers required to push all that out, the bandwidth required. Chris, as you said, the product can predict years ahead of an actual event happening. And our SEs do demos like that all the time, where we show, a 4-year-old version of the product, no updates, disconnected from the internet, preventing today's malware that you downloaded this morning, or a WannaCry attack or something like that. So it's a different paradigm, and it's using AI, which is actually, it's a force multiplier for you in a small business, in a medium business, in an enterprise, wherever you're resource strapped. This is an implementation of AI that allows you to focus on doing what you want to do. And so it's definitely helps you keep your focus on your business. And what I'd like to do is just close with a few invitations for our audience members today. And Chris and I and the entire BlackBerry Cylance team, we invite you, we wholeheartedly invite you to think about your business. Think about the goals of your business and think about your specific role in that business. If your role is to grow the business or keep it safe so that it can grow, think about that. And, you know, we invite you to think about things around you that distract you from those goals. Now, on a more personal note, Chris and I both really agree on this. Think about those things at home too. Think about the things at home that are distracting you from your family, from, you know, don't be a tourist in your own life, right? We all see pictures of people holding up cameras at concerts or anything like that. Don't be a spectator in your own life. Participate. Don't get distracted by things even in your own home. And, you know, we invite you to also have a different discussion with your managers and your business partners and your peers, and look at a technology like BlackBerry Cylance not as a simple cost center line item budget replacement, right? Replace A for A. The concept here is this is a product, a solution, as well as us as a company, a business partner that can actually come in and help you get back to growing your business, because we can eliminate those distractions from you and your team. We can allow your team to move forward rather than just continually digging out of holes, continually repairing frost freeze with excavators. You know, grow your business and not have so many of those distractions.
And truly reduce the noise.
Absolutely.
Stop the constant noise from all the products and all the alerts and everything that we deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In a security organization.
And, you know, really we invite you to look at BlackBerry Cylance. This, you know, Chris has joined us, which is a very interesting, I wanted to have Chris here for this specific reason. He and I met last year, about a year ago at PreventCon.
Correct.
And you were a customer.
Yes.
And you were in love with the product already. And I showed you some cool things and you're like, oh, man, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, I wanted Chris here because he's had both experiences. You've had both. You have deployed the product and seen what it can do for your businesses, for their lines of businesses and their goals, and now you're on the side of actually going out there and helping you out there in the world get the same results from the technology as well. And so again, we just invite you to look at BlackBerry Cylance, put us in projects. If you don't have a AV replacement project going anyway, still engage with us, talk with us. Let us start talking to you and your business partners about some of these issues, and we can maybe, you know, we can help you out with all kinds of things that we have there. So Chris, thank you very much for attending our webinar today and helping me with this. And thank you everybody in the audience. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Hopefully this webinar was not a distraction to you. Hopefully we gave you some business value, and we look forward to talking with you and seeing you as a BlackBerry Cylance customer in the future. So thank you very, very much, and we appreciate your time. And everybody, back to what we're supposed to be doing today.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.